Could the House versus the NCAA settlement lead to Alabama cutting sports? What's it going to mean to have this revenue share going to the athletic department at Alabama and the teams that produce revenue, football and men's basketball? But what about the other sports that collectively lose a ton of money? We're going to get into all that right here on the Bama Tailgate Show. Great to see you guys. This is a debate that we've had in the past many times. We're going to do it again today. I want to know what you guys think. Get in the comment section. And let's get this party started. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. I know a lot of you guys love the golf, Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It's the Augusta you can play. Two amazing golf courses. That is the Azaleas and the Oaks, multi-million-dollar facility. It's the Augusta you can play. You don't even need the membership. It's not far from Tuscaloosa or Birmingham. All right, let's get this thing going. Roll Tide. Hey guys, Mick Gillespie at Broadcaster Mick. Welcome to the Bama Tailgate Show. Thanks for hanging out. And I feel like we haven't talked that much lately. I've got a lot going on, and I know you guys do too. But I wanted to do this show today and talk about something that has been on my mind for a long time. And if you guys know, if you remember, I've talked about this on every channel I've been on the radio in the past. Spent time working for Crimson Tide Sports Network at the University of Alabama, and covered some sports that might be eliminated, and we're going to talk about that. But let me get with this first. Still unpacking this whole scenario, right? But could the House versus NCAA settlement lead to cutting sports? Well, what we know right now is that the NCAA and universities have an option now to share revenue with players, $20.5 million. That starts on July the 1st, right? This is a done deal. And this makes sense for football and men's basketball. And the reason why is that football, especially at Alabama, and men's basketball in some places, was generating, like at Alabama, almost $1 billion. And the people that were out there making the money weren't being compensated. And I've talked about this before too. Look, I get it. It was supposed to be amateur athletics. And part of amateur athletics is that you don't get paid. That's what makes it amateur. But the problem became that these universities were basically funding all the other sports with the money that was being earned from football. The coaches were getting paid. The administrators were getting paid. The facilities were getting built. And then you have a star player like a Tyrone Prothro, who would have been a star in the NFL, would have made a ton of money, break his leg, and basically get nothing for it. And that was wrong. And it was wrong that the universities got fat, the coaches got fat, and the people that were out there contributing and really earning the money, the athletes weren't being compensated. They weren't even allowed to get a free hamburger because of the NCAA. You couldn't take them, drive them on a golf cart. I mean, it was so ridiculous. Now we're dealing with the other side of it, where the players are out of control. They can transfer whenever they want to. They can go out there and make as much money as they want to. Teams can spend as much as they want to. There needs to be guardrails when it comes to this. And the other part of it is the money, the interest, the success of the athletic department at places like Alabama, especially Alabama, really have revolved around football. And it became a business. It wasn't amateur anymore, at least that sport. But what we did was we would have teams that had no chance of making a dollar, that were spending, and not generating, leeching off the money that football made. And it got to the point where we were treating sports that they didn't even care about going out and making money. That like women's basketball at Alabama, and I broadcasted the games for years, but that had no chance to win a championship. And I've said this before. Look, you win a championship, I'm a little less. I'll give you a lot more credibility. Like when gymnastics was winning titles with Sarah Patterson, it's hard to complain about that. Every year you're winning an SEC or a national championship, or you're in the mix. But I'm watching women's basketball, and it was like terrible. And then you see the salaries that some of the coaches make in some of these sports, and it's unbelievable. And it's like, are you telling me you're going to pay somebody $500,000 to be a last place or a second to last place or not a contender? No, you're going to have arenas that are not even, you don't even have them halfway full. It just didn't make any sense to me. And at Alabama, there's two sports that generated revenue last year: men's basketball, and the lion's share came from football. But it's like anything else. If men's basketball is able to create money based on what they're doing, even if they're just breaking a little bit over even, you can deal with that from a business standpoint compared to the women's team or tennis or Olympic sports, basically. And here's the figure. Okay, think about if you run a business and you lose $40 million annually. $40 million annually. Your business wouldn't work. So basically we would hide. We'd have some sports hide behind Title IX, where we deserve this because Title IX says da 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 da, right? And then you'd have other sports that just, went out there, competed, but never made any money because there's not a whole lot of interest, being funded by basically football. And I think that, and Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama, is basically saying that model might not work anymore, because now you're taking $20 million that went to other stuff, and you're going to put it in to football. You're going to be paying the football players, and I'm sure some men's basketball players. Now, there's going to be schools like when Iowa had the women's basketball player that's in the WNBA now, that everybody showed up and watched. It's different. You may and there's places where they may make money off of women's basketball, maybe at Tennessee or Connecticut. There's going to be places where the way that they distribute the money, LSU may be baseball that generates money, but at Alabama, it's football and then men's basketball, and then the rest of them that they don't generate any money. My thing is this, why not ride buses instead of charter flights? Why not stay at mid-level hotels instead of staying at 5-star hotels? Instead of taking the whole team out to eat 5 meals, why not do it where, look, sorry, but you're going to have to pick up your own food. I was on the lacrosse team at Alabama. It was a club team. It was fine. It was fun. Had a great time there doing that. We paid for it out of our own pocket. Because they don't have a Division I team, because nobody cares about lacrosse at Alabama. It's the same thing with some of these other sports. Like, I love the competition of having 19 different sports. I think it's great. When the women's soccer team made a run to the Final Four, that was amazing, right? When when softball won the World Series, I loved it. I'm a huge baseball fan, and I don't want to see Bama baseball go away. And I don't think it is. I mean, they just gave Rob Vaughn a contract extension, but it doesn't make any money, And I think that we've got to get more realistic about the expectations based on what your you're bringing in, and maybe these programs need to get better at attracting fans, or go out and get, sponsors and stuff like that. I mean, it's what happens in pro sports. And unfortunately, for a long time, college sports have been funded by football, and a lot of the sports that don't bring any money in have been treated like they do bring money in. And it might have to be your amenities based on what you do and how much you go out and earn. And I know there's going to be some coaches who are going to hate me for saying this, but either that or they're not going to have many sports. And that's the interesting part about this whole thing. But let me tell you something. Alabama football, it's the entire athletic department budget. I mean, that's just it. And the days of giving somebody a scholarship and thanking them for being there are over. You're going to have to pay. So as this thing kind of rolls on, it's going to be interesting to see, how Alabama handles it. Now, the other thing I want to say is that Bama better watch what some other schools are doing. And I've talked about this on here before, that they're building an entertainment district around Neyland Stadium. At least that's what I'm hearing. And they're also going to have a tax on their tickets to help fund this. Nobody wants to pay more for their tickets. I know that. I mean, I used to get pissed off when they charged me a tax to buy the tickets at Alabama when I was a season ticket holder. I thought it was ridiculous. But eventually, that's what's going to happen. At least make it to where you turn in an experience at, Bryant Denny. Maybe you put some restaurants and bars there, like Tennessee's going to do. But Alabama's going to have to be creative with what they're doing. And then the other question, and I don't know how this is going to be answered either, but what's going to happen with the collectives? But if Alabama wants to be ahead of the curve, they're going to have to be creative when it comes to all these things, because I don't think anybody would miss tennis, women's basketball, and some of these other sports, track and field and stuff. But you want to have them because that's part of what the whole experience is supposed to be, right? The competition amongst, college athletes. But I think that the amenities that go with it and the expectation that some of these sports have is going to have to change, because the money's probably not going to be there, because it's going to be going to the sports that actually earn the money. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I saw where Justin LeBaron is coming back to Alabama, and I'm glad. And I hope Alabama baseball competes. And I've been watching the college playoffs, the super regionals. We thought that the SEC was so good, and the SEC absolutely got flattened. Auburn, hey, sorry you guys got eliminated by Coastal Carolina, but that's 10 SEC teams of the 13. 9 went in the regionals, and now Auburn's out. So basically, LSU and the winner of Tennessee and Arkansas, probably the only 2 SEC teams that are going to be in the College World Series. Who would have saw that coming? Crazy. Bama was a disappointment again in the postseason. I heard that Rob Vaughn was being talked about for maybe a Texas A&M job. I don't know how that is, but Alabama gave him an extension. You got to win in the postseason, though. And my advice to Rob is this: go call Jim Wells and get him to come and be your bench coach. Call him a volunteer assistant, because you got to teach these guys how to be tougher. You got to teach these guys how to win, and that guy knew how to win. And go look at the record book. And I remember being there for it, and I bet you he'd do it. Because Bama baseball is, it just, even a good season like this, it's, you can't even compare it to what Jim Wells did. And I from what I understand, he's coaching high school somewhere not far from Tuscaloosa as an assistant or something. Go get him to be your bench coach. Beg him to come and just sit next to him. That's how I learned baseball. And I've been in baseball my entire life. And I learned it from him. And you probably could use that too. I'm being serious. And that's not a knock. I'm just telling you, got a resource out there and you should use it. Anyway, that's my thoughts for today. Great to see you guys. We'll have Shank back on this week. Got some other surprises going on here as well. The channel, though, is always brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Always down there hanging out. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It's the Augusta you can play. You don't need a membership. You can just show up, wear your golf clothes, and go and hit it. The Azaleas and the Oaks are two amazing golf courses. We go to Philip M. Steakhouse afterwards, eat steaks, chowder, do the whole thing there. Table games and slots at Silver Star and Gold Moon Casino. Great summer concert series, water park out there. They got everything you need. And the Timeout Sports Lounge. Bet the Belmont. Lost again. Horses didn't do me well. But you can go out there and do that. It really is an awesome place. You don't have to go all the way out to Vegas. An hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. The other thing is they are doing, Daniel Moore, our buddy over at New Life Art, is doing a basketball print, buzzer beater. Mark Sears stunning Auburn in that game down on the Plains. It was one of the best games of the season. Bama and Auburn were really great in basketball last year. And I wanted them to do another print. I thought they needed to do a Mark Series. He's the best in the business. Look, our promo code is Bama Tailgate. Use it at newlifeart.com, 20% off when you check out. Anyway, thanks for hanging on the channel again, guys. And I know that, look, you want to talk about Ryan Williams. You want to talk about Alabama football. We're going to get into all that stuff. But right now, the story is this revenue sharing and how it's going to affect the athletic department and what it's going to look like in the future. And will we have some of these sports? You tell me in the comment section what you guys think. And roll tide, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Escape to Pearl River Resort.